I ran out of room. Okay, so technically I didn't like run out of hard drive space. I've got plenty of hard drive space, and if I did run out of room there, I could just go ahead and buy a bigger SSD or a bigger NVMe drive or whatever. What I ran out of was slots to put something like this in when I'm doing testing, or say maybe even trying to install Windows on one of these for a different build, which, I mean, I've got a couple of them going through. So without the room on the motherboard, and it's not an uncommon problem. A lot of people might only have one slot, or they might have, no slots or something like that. And if you're stuck with just one slot, you put say a boot drive in there, you've got nothing to be able to add in to, say, copy games onto or anything of that nature. So when you start running out of room, you start trying to look for other options. I might have an option. This is a PCIe adapter for an NVMe. Now, I'll go ahead and put that up there pretty close. There you go. And it's just a simple adapter. This one happens to be a PCI 3.0. They do make them in 4.0. They do make them double. They make them, in this case, it goes up to a 2280. And it's pretty easy to put in there. They do make them, like I said, double slot, come with the heat sink and all that stuff. So they're pretty versatile. I'll go ahead and, that's the company it comes from. We'll talk about them in just a second. But I got it from Amazon for like 15 bucks. It came pretty quickly. Now, the thing about this is when I started doing this and was going to do some testing and checking things out and just looking at my regular speeds for, say the NVMe I've got here, the Team Group one. And it's just a regular Team Group MP33 256 gig, just your standard, just a regular NVMe drive. But what I was wondering is, am I losing any performance by testing on something like this as opposed to testing on the motherboard? Well, today we're going to, that's one of the things we're going to kind of take a look at. Okay, so kind of first things first here, it does require some assembly. Now, I've already put the large bracket on, you can see here, but it does come with a smaller bracket. However, the smaller bracket is built with a hole on the different side, so I'm not really sure quite what the deal was with that, but I don't know, maybe if somebody has any feedback and lets me know if they're using it in a low profile. The card itself certainly is low profile. That shouldn't be any problem at all. It does also come with the screws, the mounting screws to put it on, as well as the screw to go ahead and put the NVMe drive. And so we'll do that real quick. And it's pretty simple. The instructions, it does have a little instruction booklet. And whoops. For anybody not familiar, you want to make sure you put your NVMe in at a 45-degree angle, then gently press it down. Put the screw in. Let's see if we can't do this right. Screwdriver is magnetic, that's a big plus. And just that simple. Now, the one thing that I did not do during my testing or anything like that, it does also come, we'll do it like that. I'm not sure. There you go. You can see that in there. It does come with a heat sink that also has the heat sink pad, the silicone pad. It's advisable if you're going to use the heat sink or you think you might need it, or on a larger drive, say something that is a very fast drive, a TLC drive or something like that, you probably want to put this on first and then go ahead and put it on the board. Otherwise, I mean, there's no way to do that otherwise. There's no screws to hold it on. There's 3 rubber bands in there that will hold it secured onto the drive itself, and then you'll be able to go ahead and just screw it in like normal. Now, when I started looking for this on Amazon and all that stuff, I was just looking for an inexpensive PCI adapter. And the one I did come off with was, I think I might have mentioned that, MHQJRH. I had never heard of this company before. I wasn't familiar with them at all. The reviews seemed pretty good on it, so I went ahead and got it. What I did find out later is they make a bunch of little parts and little things. They make heat sinks for your NVMe drives. They make the the little standoffs for your GPU, the brackets and stuff like that. Just those little accessories and little things. They make a bunch of stuff like that. So I was, even though I can't really find a lot of sourcing from that company itself, they make a lot of those little odds and ends that are available on Amazon, Newegg, and a bunch of other sites. And so I felt pretty comfortable when I went ahead and ordered it. And as you're going to kind of see, it worked out pretty well. What I'm using to test is I'm using two different Asus Prime motherboards. One is an X470, one is an X570. The X470 is going to be in the Corsair 220 case, and that's where I'm going to test the team group. That's this one right here. The reason why I'm splitting these up is because I'm already using the other one, the X570, with the Western Digital Black SN750. Now, I did a review on this SN750 before, but I also did some crystal benchmarks, and that's what I'm using for both of these, just to kind of measure the difference and see what's going to give me better or worse or what have you, and try to go from there to see if this is going to be really hard on me or a detriment, or if it's going to mess things up where you're not going to be able to use it. Okay, a couple things to note as we're kind of talking face to face here. The little standoff screw, the standoff little, well, it's a standoff and the screw that go in to hold the NVMe in, that sometimes is not present on the motherboard, usually comes in a little packet inside your motherboard box. And that, like the IO shield, I'm sure is one of those things that's just going to get tossed out or lost and it'll disappear. So you might be, it does not come included in this bracket. So the one for this does, but not if you're trying to put it on your motherboard. So kind of be aware of that. Your computer, when you're swapping back and forth with this, it might boot into safe mode, or it might show like a troubleshooting screen when it first comes on, because it might be a little bit confused as to which NVMe or which drive is supposed to be the boot drive, because you've changed and put another drive in. It's okay. Just go to your BIOS, save it out of your BIOS, and go right back into the process. It'll be fine. And the last thing is, I haven't tested this in a system that does not have NVMe on the motherboard yet. I do have an older HP that I'm going to be doing that with, but I haven't had a chance or the opportunity to go ahead and test that. And so I will be able to let you guys know that as I start doing some benchmarks and start trying to figure that out. But that's one of those things to kind of be aware of. I haven't tested this yet. If you have, or you know somebody that has, or if you come across this, or you get a chance to test it before I get a chance to make a video about it, leave me something in the comments and kind of let me know. Otherwise, I will do follow-up and let you guys know if this does work on maybe a little bit older hardware that doesn't have an NVMe slot on the motherboard itself. Like I said, I went ahead and tested this both in the my editing rig, which is the SN750. I did some testing, and you can kind of see the light, flashing and blinking there. I also, when I swapped systems in the other Corsair, that's the one that's in the Corsair 220 case that I'm still working on a little bit there. I've got the X470 motherboard in there. That's got a Ryzen 5 3600X in it. And I tested it both on the board and on the card there, and you can see the indicator light as well. The indicator light is just a cute little LED that says NVMe, and it stays stable when it's not being used, and it flashes when it's being used. So what I'll do is I'll show you the stats and what I did. The Crystal Disk Mark final. I ran several tests, or I'm not going to say several. I ran it quite a few times. But I went ahead and took pretty much the best overall out of each of those to compare with each other, both the PCI card and the onboard. And I went ahead and compared and tried to see what the difference might be. And what I found, at least with this, the Team Group one is a TLC with an SLC cache, which means it's a little bit slower. It's very, very quick, very efficient, but the cache on it's a little bit slower, so it will be a little bit slower drive, not as quick as the other drive that we're going to see. But it's almost negligible. It's almost within margin of error. And I kind of wasn't expecting that. I expected there to be a little bit more of a noticeable difference. But in all the tests throughout, and I just took the best overall of each section, but they ended up being, all the runs, they ended up being, say if you run it 5 times and you get 5 different results that are similar, they were very, very similar in looking, whether it was on the PCI card or on the motherboard itself. So this is dangerously close to being within margin of error, I think, at least on the slower NVMe. Now, with the faster drive, the TLC drive, the Western Digital 750, there was just a little bit more of a noticeable difference in the test results. As far as being able to use it back and forth, this is still very, very quick, and it's twice as fast pretty much as the other type of drive. So I don't know if in practical day-to-day file transfers using gameplay and all that stuff, if you're ever going to be able to tell the difference between if it's on an NVMe on the motherboard or if it's on a PCI adapter. It seems to be just that darn good. And like I said, I did several tests, and as you're running through, each one does, when you're doing Crystal Disk Mark, you can set it, and I did a 1 gig file 5 times, and then it takes the result out of that to give to you. And as you're watching these numbers change, they look an awful lot, they look very, very similar between one platform and the other. So I'm not thinking it's going to affect or have a really adverse effect when you're doing normal transfer files, or if you're playing games or anything like that. I was pretty well impressed with the overall results. So with that being said, I mean, it's overall, I mean, I have to be pretty happy with the product. I kind of sit a little bit better at ease now, knowing that I can get something like this and I can put it in either computer I'm working with or any of the computers I'm trying to work with, and either copy files over or initialize a drive or format or do whatever I need to do. Or if I just don't have an NVMe slot, maybe I'll be able to use it. And like I said, I will do a video on that. I've got an older HP that this weekend I'm going to go ahead and show the benchmarks and all that stuff. It's already put together and done, but I will go ahead. Last weekend, I went ahead and showed that I cleaned it up and got it working again. This coming weekend, I'll show you some benchmarks and everything, and I'll go ahead and include this as well to see if it did not work, or if I could not get an NVMe drive to work in there and recognize. And I'll mention that in the video. I'll try to make sure I'll do that. But otherwise, that's all I got for this time, folks. I realize it's kind of straight to the point. It's not very long, but I just wanted to, while I was doing this and setting this up for a different computer, I wanted to go ahead and test it. And when I started testing, I thought it's something that I might want to share, because somebody out there might have a problem where, you know, maybe you've got a drive, or maybe you want to get a faster NVMe, or I do not know if this works on the regular SATA. So I will also test that too. I will see if this works with a SATA drive, because some motherboards now are not reading, they're only reading NVMe, and they're going away from SATA on the motherboard. So I'll see if this works as well. But anyway, like I said, that's all I got for this time. So I hope it gives you some kind of good information if you're thinking about it, sitting on the fence, or don't know if you should get one of these cards. At the very, very least, this seems like a pretty reputable company to get it from. But overall, I would think, yeah, why not? Go ahead. They're not that expensive, and it seems to work pretty well. And if nothing else, if you don't end up using the PCI card, you can get a heatsink for 10 or 11 bucks, and this only cost, I think, 15. So what, for $4 or $5? Yeah. Okay. So if nothing else, I'll use the heatsink if I need it. You know, I can't lose there. Anyway, like I said, that's it. Don't forget to hit that like button if you liked it, dislike if you didn't, but kind of let me know why. I want to know what I'm screwing up if I am. Subscribe. I'm still trying to really push for subscribers, and appreciate all the folks that have subscribed lately. And until next time, folks, that's all I got. So I'll see you later.